Welcome back to the Beyond the Bucket show. Happy to have our guest, former skill development director at IMG Academies, also worked for the Boston Celtics and New Orleans Pelicans, a prep coach, a college coach. I mean, you've done it all. Dan Wendt, welcome to the show.
Hey, great having you. It's certainly a great opportunity to talk with you and basically share any knowledge that I've gained over my last 10 years of coaching.
Definitely. I was so juiced after our pre-call that I just couldn't wait to actually get on the Zoom with you and just chat some hoops. But I first want to start with some of the high-level players that you've been around. You've got to be on the court with DeMarcus Cousins, a.k.a. Boogie. You've got to be on the floor with Anthony Davis. Tell me about what that experience is for you and, kind of how that came about before we get into some of the greater details of your path and your journey.
Yeah, I mean, working with those really high-level guys is awesome. There was different amounts of work that I could do with certain players because, like guys like Rajon Rondo, for example.
Yeah.
I would travel with him every time we went on a road trip. I would go to the visiting arena with him and another shooting coach, Mike Pemberthy, actually, another California guy.
Okay.
So we would go and get shots up the night before the game. So just get a feel for the arena and it's kind of like getting some confidence ahead going into the game the next day.
Sure.
Whereas Anthony Davis, I was much more in like a supporting role, just working with him on a daily basis, whether it be guarding him or rebounding or defending, that sort of thing. Had a couple film sessions with him, but beyond that, it was more so just a supportive role.
Talk about the on-court stuff with a guy like Anthony Davis where you have to defend him. For the people that may not have been around NBA players, tell me what that's like and like how good are these guys at that elite level?
Yeah. So when I was in Boston, the assistant GM, Dave Lewin, he was the GM for the Red Claws at the time. So he had these pads that he found online. They're actually football pads, but they're basically arm extensions. They lock into your hand and there's a handle inside and it has like a 1.5-foot extension pad on it.
Right.
So you basically can increase your length, by 3 feet.
Yeah.
With padding on the end. And that was really the only way I could even try to guard guys like Anthony Davis. I still wouldn't block him. His length and athleticism is just that unreal. But it at least gave some sort of a game-like look at defense. And that was sort of the only way that I could do that.
Wow, amazing! I couldn't even imagine. And you're a big guy at 6'8", and so he's a few inches taller than you, and you got these pads. Like I've seen some of your workouts. I mean, it's just amazing how good and big and strong these athletes are. But what are some of the things that you noticed about some of these elite top level players being in the NBA? We talked about it briefly on our prep call, but can you outline it for the people? Like what these high level, the top level 1%ers, what are they doing, to make sure that they maximize their ability on the court?
I'd say it's probably player specific a little bit, but there's certainly things that these players are doing very consistently. And number one, most of these guys have a routine in place. They have a certain, even if it's just a certain type of shot that they want to try and practice daily,
right.
Or if there's something in their game they're trying to tweak, like maybe they want to get better at going left and pulling up, that sort of thing. Having an attack plan in place so that they can get in, do their 40 minutes or 50 minutes of work and get out. And that's after practice is over. Like
wow.
This is not something that goes on during practice. During practice is obviously very scheduled. These are the shots that we're going to work on out of the offense. This is something that on top of what we already do.
Right.
Drew Holiday, for example, is really huge on playing one-on-one. He'll take one of the assistant coaches, Jamel McMillan comes to mind. Coach McMillan's son. Really, really great energy guy, real physical, strong defender as a coach, and he'll just take him for 20 minutes and do some stuff one-on-one, some things that maybe he might be tweaking and working on in his game. So I think different players have sort of a different approach, but that is the big thing is they spend that extra time consistently every single day. They get their work in and they try and be efficient. That's the other thing. So many of these guys, especially the higher level you go, their time becomes more and more valuable. You know, they have so many different phone calls they're taking during the day, trying to spend time with their family, kids if they have them. You know, so you honestly have less and less time to spend in the gym. So the time that you do spend, you want to have something to do right away and just get after it. The confidence level is definitely something I would speak on. Ja Morat, for example, I worked with him this past summer and did all of his skill development for his pre-draft workouts. Incredibly confident kid. I knew he was going to be special beyond just his physical gifts. I knew he was going to be great because he knew he was going to be great. And the confidence is a huge piece because ultimately you can have the best shot in the world, but if you don't really feel like it's going to go in, it's not going to go in. But if you visualize it and you work that into your practice and you know, all right, it doesn't matter if Dame Lillard is guarding me or Kyrie Irving or some of the best defenders in the league, it's still going to go in. I'm going to separate. I'm going to make the shot.
Two things I really liked. One is being on a routine. I know, like, when you're at home, you can go on a routine. I'm going to work out at this certain time. I'm going to do this. You have everything in place. When you start going on the road, say you go on vacation, just we're talking about regular people now. You go on vacation, your whole routine is messed up. And so when you get back, it's much more difficult for you to kind of get back into that rhythm. But these players, it sounds like home or on the road, they make sure that they have a routine. So I think that is key for anybody out there, no matter what walk of life, but specifically for basketball and specifically for young players. You have to really put together a routine that works for you. Now, one question before I continue: did they do the same thing over and over in those 45-minute skill sessions, or would it change up based on what they kind of needed for that time period?
I think a lot of it had to do with the player's feel. Like some guys, Check Diallo, for example, comes to mind. He was very diligent with having the same routine. Ian Clark is another example, having the same routine. He would do this every time he was out on the court. It gave him a sense of confidence through just working through the same shots and getting the feel of the ball coming off his hand and that sort of stuff. So yeah, some of the guys would do the exact same routine. Other guys, they would throw some tweaks in there and do some different things.
And, you know, for anybody that's doing stuff like this, working on their game, working on their craft, it's very important to get good at a few different things. You know, you don't need to be great at everything, but you need to be really, really good at certain things. If your thing is catch and shoot, well, you need to make sure that you're making 7 out of 10 in the workouts minimum. I would say at the high school level, I'm sure these guys are probably at 85% clip and nobody's guarding them. But you got to get really, really good at a few things. And if you do that, you're going to see it translate to the game. So like you were mentioning, you said Ian Clark, right?
Yes.
He probably worked on that same thing over and over. So when he gets into the game, and especially a role player like him, he's able to just stick to his strengths, which so many people I don't think do as much as they probably should.
Absolutely. So Ian's a great example because in the off season, he would do a lot more to attack his flaws. So like working on getting to the rim and being physical and that sort of thing, that would be the main focus. But then during season, it's much more so about sharpening your sword, about, him being a great shooter. He wanted to get more ways to get his shot off, more ways to, like one of the big things he and I worked on specifically was working on having quicker feet so that he could catch the ball quicker and get it off quicker. And it's a minute difference time-wise, but it's a huge difference when you're taking a shot and the hand is here versus the hand is here. You know, that's a huge difference in whether or not the shot goes in or out. So if you're able to take your time during the catch because your feet are already set,
yep.
Now you're able to have more confidence in the shot going in because the defender's hand is further back, and you have a little bit more comfort.
Definitely. Speaking to that, are you teaching ball in the air, feet in the air, where it's like, hey, this closeout's coming, I got to get my feet down before I even catch the pass, so I'm able to catch and shoot. Some people like the permanent pivot or inside pivot. Some people like the hop. Some people like a hybrid of it.
Yep.
What was your preference in teaching it? And then I guess I can ask my next question after that.
So I'm a huge proponent of having as many tools as possible and knowing when to use those tools so that you're comfortable with any of them. So footwork, for example, yes, the hop, the pivot, all that stuff, but knowing when to use it and how to do it efficiently. But the ball and the feet in the air is a huge piece of that. So as the pass is coming, I talk about an anchor foot. Unless you're going to hop. Right. So that anchor foot is going to keep you to the ground so that once the ball is ready to be caught and gathered, then you just have to take one step to go up and shoot. Right. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, they do that quite a bit. Yep. That's all the film that I have is built off of them. Like, for example, even if you're coming across the baseline, coming off of a stagger screen on the baseline, right. And trying to get open, I teach a 3-step. Where you push out and then you push out towards the 3, past the 3, and then your second step is a pivot, or I'm sorry, your third step is a pivot now as you catch. So basically the bottom line is your one step is already on the ground. That's your anchor. And your second step is to catch, gather, release the ball. And the more that you're able to just catch and shoot, the less you're able to be contested.
Sure. No, I absolutely love it. And everybody's different. Some people are better off off a permanent pivot. Some people are better off the hop. And that's why I love talking shooting with so many different people. Everybody has their preference, but the good thing is nobody's really correct or incorrect. Like it's all going to be subjective. And
the correct shot is the one that goes in.
Exactly. Can you make it at a high rate? And that's really all I'm focused on. I've done a lot of research on, pivot feed or hop. And I like, me personally, I love what you just said was you got to have multiple tools in your toolbox because not every time is going to be the exact same, but there are going to be times where it's a penetrating kick. It's going to be a closeout. You need to get your feet down and maybe the hop is going to be better for you. Or, maybe coming off the dribble, it may be a 1-2 inside pivot or a hesitate and then pop into it off a little short hop off the pick and roll. Like there's just so many variations of it, but the bottom line is the bottom line. So I appreciate it.
And I think the two biggest factors are momentum, movement momentum. Are you moving forward, backwards, and then also direction and space. So, how much space do you have between you and the defender, and how can you create more? Sure. And which direction are you going? It's once you start to get comfortable with working with, and every player is different, but once you get comfortable working with guys like Ian Clark and seeing, okay, what tool does he like to use the most? And for him, he was much more of a left-right guy. Yeah. And so working in how to get to that footwork from different situations.
Right. You briefly mentioned working with Ja Morat. You did all of his pre-draft training, which he's a special player, right? A top 3 overall pick. I think he went number 2 last year. He was getting ready to be the NBA Rookie of the Year and still might be before the season got, shut down or postponed. So tell me what it was like working with that guy. You briefly touched on it, but give us some more insight to who this kid is and, why he's so great.
Well, so one of the things that he is as a person, as a player, that again, I think you look at other great players and how they got to that level, open-mindedness to being coached. Like Kobe, for example, he would talk about how he would call up Jordan and say, they would talk 20 minutes about this one move and how to do it, when to do it, and that sort of thing.
Sure.
Ja had that. the first workout that we did, him and his dad was in the gym watching what we were doing, and it was some stuff, some footwork based stuff that I got from basically it was a trickle down coaching effect from Dirk Nowitzki's German shooting coach.
Okay.
And so Adam Harrington actually ended up playing for the Mavericks, and that's where he picked it up. And so he was showing me how to do it, and I passed that on to Ja Morat.
Yep.
But we were doing some stuff with that, and his dad was just like, "Oh my God, this is awesome! I'm just going to sit and watch." And he was open to it, and it really helped him with his balance. The more we worked on it, his balance, his posture, his just some minor tweaks with his shot. That sort of mentality, the student of the game mentality, is huge for players that want to get better.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're a middle school kid playing for top flight elite, or if you're an elite player in the NBA.
Right.
That mindset enables you to get a whole lot better. Whereas you see players that are kind of like, nah, this is what I'm comfortable with. I'm going to stick with this. I appreciate it, but not for me. Those type guys typically have a smaller ceiling, and they don't end up getting quite as good.
No doubt. We hear that cliche saying, get comfortable being uncomfortable. But when it comes down to it, a lot of people aren't willing to really put themselves in that predicament. And I know this from, coaching for many years. People like to stick into their lane, but the time that you have to get out of that lane and do something different, and it feels awkward, like the first time you're doing it, yes, it's going to be awkward. It's not going to feel the way you probably want your body to feel during doing whatever the mechanic is, but it's going to get better. Just like a kid, I've got two little ones, but when you start walking, like, they're all over the place. But now, as you get older, you're a master of it, and that now I can't stop my son from running everywhere. But yeah, I love that point, and just being coachable is one of the best things you can say about a player. And
and you know what? He's got these incredible gifts already. Like, his athleticism, his ability to get out of a pick and roll and get downhill is incredible. He's really, really agile. Like, he's got soccer feet. Like, his feet are incredibly quick. He can go one way and make it look like he's going the other. And incredible athlete, very, very gifted. So his ability to be coached just adds another layer to that. It just gives him a higher ceiling.
Sure.
And that's why you'll see him get Rookie of the Year. That's why you'll see him become an All-Star. It's because of him. It's not because of guys like me. I'm just trying to pass knowledge on. That's not even mine. It's just borrowed knowledge.
Exactly.
But he's open to it.
Yeah. It was funny because I was taking a walk with my wife today, and we're talking about just coaching, and she's like, "Well, do you guys do the same drills?" I'm like, "Yeah, we all do the same drills. we may just call it something different, but we're all doing the same thing. We're all taking things from other people and putting it into our own toolbox, and that's really what it's all about." But we've talked a lot about some of the players that you've coached, but I want to talk a little bit about you and your journey. Tell me about your high school experience. I know you're a good high school player in high school, but you kind of struggled academically. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I went to Lee High School, graduating class of 2003. Go Horns.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't focused. I loved the game. I loved playing. I had no idea how to approach it from a successful professional standpoint, as far as like how to become a scholarship level player and then how to become a pro after that. Right. I just had no idea.
Sure.
So I also did not have a huge interest in school, which is not very smart. Even if you're not interested in it, it's the key to your future. Sure. I mean, I was really, really close to not graduating, and it just is not the right approach. I thought at that point, like, being a cool guy was more important, and it's just not.
Wow.
So after I was done at Lee High School, I had an okay career there. I started, but I wasn't very good. I could shoot threes. That was about it. I was 6'8", 185.
Yeah.
Very, very skinny kid.
Right.
But after I was done at Lee, I went to West Valley College and
And
played
that
for Danny
and that's
Yoshikawa.
that's kind of where
Yeah.
things kind of got that aha moment
Oh, 100%.
during your junior college
100%.
career.
Yeah, and he's actually back there now. He was recently an assistant coach at St. Mary's.
Yep.
But I owe everything to him. He did an amazing job of holding me accountable to the point where I started to do it myself. I started to hold myself accountable.
Right.
Because habitually, if somebody holds you accountable long enough, you start to build that, in your own head and say to yourself, you know what, this is not what I should be doing.
I love it.
So I went from a 2.0 in high school to 3.5 all the way through college. Graduated with honors. Yeah. We were 54-9 while I was there. We did a ton of winning. I got bigger, stronger, tougher. I added to my game. I was able to put the ball on the floor at least a little bit. I could actually set screens and rebound and do things that I just didn't even try to do before.
Yeah.
And eventually I became a scholarship player.
So before we get to that, tell me, being held accountable is not always easy, right?
Yeah.
And you sometimes look back on it and be like, yeah, I needed that. But in the moment, you're like,
yeah.
Tell me about that with the relationship to the coach at that time, like early on. Because once you get habituated to the nature of everything, then you kind of just fall in line. But prior to that, tell me about that process.
Yeah, so I was really lucky. While I was at West Valley, they had a bunch of assistant coaches that went on to be Division I coaches. Julius Hicks, Ryan Madry, Colin Foff, like a bunch of these guys that Donnie Gornoni that are now either Division I coaches now or have been recently. And so between them and Coach Yosh, like they did such a good job of keeping everything in-house and making sure that, number one, we were cared about. I think accountability is really tough to do if the players don't feel like you really care about them.
Sure.
Sometimes I think coaches make the mistake of holding guys accountable, but not doing it in a way that is conducive to their success, because they can read through the fact that you're just doing this for yourself.
Right.
As a player, because you feel like they care, you are able to take that accountability a whole lot better.
Right.
Whether it be running for mistakes or having to go to study hall because you didn't get as good of a grade as you thought you should have. Right. That sort of stuff. Like study hall's important. Little things like making sure that we went in to do one-on-one time with our instructors outside of just class. Like little stuff like that is really important. And he gave us the tools to be successful post junior college.
Right. Awesome. And so you got an opportunity to play at Chaminade, which is in Hawaii. A perennial power at the Division II level. They play a bunch of Division I's every single year, especially at the Maui Invitational, where you kind of get to see some of the best teams in the country. Tell me about your experience at Chaminade.
Chaminade was awesome. I mean, it's paradise. You go to school in Hawaii and you get to play in the Maui Invitational. My first game there was against UCLA. They had Russell Westbrook, Aflalo, Collison, and Mbamute, 4 guys that ended up playing in the NBA.
Wow.
And they beat us by 25, but
that's actually not that bad considering, 25 is, 12 possessions. So, I mean, it's
and it's just moments that you never forget. Like Aaron Aflalo tried to post me up one time, and I just sort of like tapped the ball out from behind as he's trying to spin and got the turnover. Just little things like that. Like,
and the crazy part is you guys are the same height, and he's playing on the wing.
Yeah. Yes. And I was setting screens and posting up.
Yeah.
But no, Chaminade was an amazing experience. My senior year, we ended up winning 20 games, and we got a number 3 seed in the national tournament, and had some pretty good success. A lot of guys there I'm still in contact with today. And I ended up working for the head coach, Matt Maher. I ended up working for him later down the road in my career. And man, it was a lot of fun.
Definitely. So that led you into, after you graduated, that led you into coaching pretty much right away. So tell me about your journey, because it's quite a few stops, over the last decade or so.
Yeah. So basically, like the father of my coaching tree is Bob Burton, because Danny Yoshikawa played for Bob Burton at West Valley College, and Bob later on, after having a Hall of Fame career at West Valley, was the head coach at Cal State Fullerton, and that's where I worked for him as my first Division I coaching role as a volunteer, basically video coordinator. And that was a great experience, working for him, just because there were so many stories that I heard about him, and then going to work for him was just awesome.
Right.
And they didn't have a huge amount of success the one year that I was there, but they definitely made the tournament while he was at the helm, and he did a great job there. And I had a couple of teammates that actually played for him, and they got to cut the nets down for him. So that was a lot of fun. And after that, I got my first junior college actual assistant coaching job. That was my first assistant job at the junior college level, working for Remy McCarthy at Moore Park College. And he was awesome. So him and Bob Burton, and then later on the head coach at TCU, Trent Johnson, all three of those guys worked for Coach Lynn Archibald at the same time. They were all assistant coaches together.
Wow.
So that was amazing to kind of work for those three guys while they were head coaches.
So it's amazing, because of the relationship that you had with Coach Yosh, you got the opportunity to go down to beautiful Malibu with Coach Burton. And then it transpired to your next job. And then, like you said, you were at TCU, and Trent Johnson. Like that's kind of how a lot of this stuff works for those that are trying to get into this industry or this business, which I don't know why you'd want to do it. You got to be a crazy person. I love basketball.
Well, it definitely wasn't for money.
But, the whole relationship piece, I love it.
Yes. Networking is such a huge part of this thing. Whether you're a player or a coach, the way that things happen for you in a positive way or a negative way is the guys talk to each other. They call them up or they text them saying, "Hey, I got a guy for you," or "Hey, this is not the guy for you." So making sure that being in the moment and spending the time that you have now where you're at now is so much bigger than trying to plan and figure out what you want to do in the future.
Yes.
Because the future stuff is going to happen no matter what.
You can say that again, my friend.
But so the things that you do now, that's sort of what guides you into your future, and making sure that you are committing yourself to people that are going to help you learn is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I always tell our teams to be where your feet are. And that means there's no other place that is this important. You're right here, right now. That's the only moment that we have. We can't get what happened in the past back. We can't see what's going to happen next, but we're right here, right now. So let's make the most of it while we have that opportunity, because it's going to come and go pretty soon. But your point to just doing a great job wherever you're at. This goes for any occupation, all walks of life. Be great at whatever it is. If that means you need to sweep the floors every day, and we'll get to your impact basketball stuff, but you were really good at everything that you did, and you took pride in it, and that's why you kept getting more and more opportunities. And people better understand that at an early age, or you're always going to say, "Oh, so and so did this, and I could have did that," but you didn't. The bottom line is you got to create and cultivate those relationships and do a good job wherever you're at.
Absolutely. No matter what the profession, obviously it's very important with basketball, but you have to do a good job where you are, so that the people that are helping you now will help you in the future. Right. And that's the story of my career. I don't think that I've done anything special necessarily, but I've worked for special people, and they've helped me along the way.
Yeah. So after Moore Park, you went to TCU?
Yes. Yeah. So worked for Trent Johnson. That was our first year in the Big 12. Had a great time. We had some really good wins. We beat Kansas when they were number 5 in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Injuries prevented us from really having a good year. Amric Fields was a guy that was just an awesome guy. He had some pro scouts coming in to watch him almost every day, and he unfortunately tore his, I think it was ACL, MCL, and meniscus in a play against Cal Poly early in the year.
Oh man!
And he was 6'9", athletic, could shoot it. Just awesome guy. Was so just heartbroken over that. And we ended up doing okay, but I was a video coordinator there, and I definitely had the itch to get back on the court. At the junior college level, I did a ton on the court, and then going to be a video coordinator, I couldn't do anything on the court.
Right.
So after TCU, I went to go work for Matt Marr. Again, he was actually originally an East Coast guy. His dad, Buddy Marr, is an East Coast coach. I want to say he coached at Columbia.
Right.
And so he was at a Division II school called Assumption College, and I went to go be an assistant out there, and got a pay raise and got to live near Boston. Really good experience. Working for the guy that I used to play for, and kind of seeing how Division II athletics is a little bit different in that you don't have nearly the money to I did a lot, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether it be sweeping the floors or putting together weight room plans and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to be able to sort of touch everything, every part of the program.
Yeah. It's amazing that all these little reps end up helping you in the long run with your coaching career. Like, it's just small little baby steps, and then you finally get to a place that you're kind of at right now, where it's like all these things have come together, and that's just the process that everybody has to go through. You're never going to get, you wouldn't have been ready if you at the beginning of your coaching career, they say, okay, you're going to go be with the Pelicans.
Yeah.
Like, there's no on the job training, that will get you ready for that, other than doing all these things at the Division JC level, at the Division II level, at the Division I level, and then back to the Division II level. Like, it's amazing. So after that, what was the next step for you? Since you were in the Boston area.
Well, the biggest thing I learned from that job was just how much talent there was out there. And even going out to, Massachusetts and coaching at the Division II level, there's so many good players out there. Our niche was really trying to get Division I transfers, guys that for whatever reason didn't have success at their last school.
Yep.
Going to get some of those guys to fit in with us, and man, there's some good players out there. They talk about the NBA too. Some of these players that are at the end of the bench and for whatever reason don't get minutes, they would go and kill anybody at the Division I level, and it's amazing just how many players are out there, and how good these guys are, and how much there's always somebody coming for your spot.
Right.
And so after Assumption College, we were let go as a staff, and so I was out of a job, and I knew that number one, it's tough to get jobs in that area, just because it's very much so like, you talk about the networking. It's 90% of how you get jobs out there. If they don't know you, you're not getting a job.
Yeah.
And so basically, I was struggling to get a high school job, just because I was only there for 2 years. I knew nobody. I knew my boss, and that was it when I moved out there. So I ended up getting really lucky, and Jamie Sullivan at Worcester Academy gave me a shot to be a volunteer assistant coach at the high school level. And that was awesome. And again, I was going back to volunteering, not making any money, and just doing it for the love of the game. And it was amazing.
That's a high level prep school, right?
Absolutely. Yes. NEPSAC, Vermont Academy, Tilton, like Brewster, you're playing against all these really high level schools.
Yep.
And I think honestly that helped me get a job with the Celtics, because they saw that I would do anything. Like I'm not in it for the money or for fame or whatever it is that you sometimes hear coaches get into it for. I just love the game. So yeah, after that season, I ended up getting really lucky, and I went out to go work for basically the Wasserman agency down in LA, and I worked for Noah LaRoche, and he's basically a skills trainer that works with a lot of high-level NBA guys. Russell Westbrook being one of them. Yep. Anthony Davis, some of those other guys that were represented by Wasserman at the time. And I just volunteered. I just went out there. I was able to stay with my aunt and uncle in just north of LA, and drove down 40 minutes every day to get to the gym by 8 a.m. And it was just an awesome experience. He's definitely the best non-NBA paid skill development coach that I've ever seen. And his approach, to me, the reason his approach is so smart is because he takes the perspective of working on things that you will use the most percentage of possessions per game.
Yep.
So whereas some coaches will work on certain moves that are very situational that you may only use once every 3 to 4 games, he loves to work on stuff that you will use every single game multiple times. And I think that's just a really good approach to take skill development, because once you can build that base, then once guys get really, really advanced, that's when you can start to work on other things that, minor little tweaks.
Right.
But especially for a guy doing a pre-draft process, like Sabonis, for example, was there when I was out there. That's the approach you should take. Build good habits, build, certain parts of your routine that you want to have in the future that you can carry with you throughout your career.
Right.
And so Noah, I owed a huge amount to him. He really helped me throughout my career, especially getting into the pro level, because he helped me get a job with the Celtics, and then he also helped me get a job with the Pelicans directly. Awesome guy.
It just goes to show you it's not what you know, it's who you know sometimes. But being a person that cultivates those relationships is going to ultimately probably get you an opportunity later, because every time I need an assistant coach, or anytime that I've gotten a job, that's how I got my job. Somebody knew the athletic director and said, hey, you need to talk to this guy.
Right.
And then you end up getting the job, because of that initial relationship. And then if you're qualified, which you've been qualified for all the positions that you've had, it just gets you in the door. I mean, over and over and over, we can talk about that. But I want to talk a little bit about the Celtics. I mean, they're an organization that I think does it better than most in the NBA. I would probably say, they're one of the top 3 or 4 organizations in the entire league. But tell me about their approach, and I think you have one word to sum it up. I think it's efficiency. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. So before that even comes into play, I think the smartest thing that they do is they do a great job of hiring good people. They hire people that are just good character people that are going to work hard, and they try and have that student of the game mindset. When they try and learn as much as they teach. Right. And that's a huge part of why they're successful, I think. And obviously if Brad Stevens is the guy that's running everything, and he's a student of the game as much as he teaches, then why shouldn't everybody else be? So but yeah, their overarching sort of like the thing that's steering their boat is efficiency, for sure. For sure. And whether it be, off the court, sleep cycles, when they eat, that sort of stuff, planning players' day, especially during the season, and then on the court stuff, minutes per game, load management sort of stuff is to me, I think, is a smart thing. Right. I think playoffs kind of is a different deal, but during the season, I think load management is a great idea. I think that's an advancement for the game at the pro level, and guys that are against that, that's fine. But I think to me, it's so worth it to have healthy players as opposed to overworking guys and then possibly getting injured.
Right.
But so one of the things that I learned from them that was just sort of like a light bulb went off in my head. Just a minor detail here. Catch on the run. It's so basically like this was something I picked up while working for the Red Claws as an assistant coach and video guy. Basically, the idea is this: the best situation for it to happen is out of a pick and roll, and you are the guy that's going to perform and catch on the run is the opposite wing from opposite the ball. So let's say, for example, Demetrius Jackson was a point guard for us. He's coming off a screen set by Ryan Kelly. Ryan Kelly rolls to the rim. Demetrius Jackson is getting into the key. Whoever's guarding the opposite wing more than likely is taught to be at the nail, bothering or at least trying to stunt at the ball to try and either get him to pick it up, make a pass, do something besides just get to the rim.
Right. Make a decision. You have to make a decision.
Yeah.
We're not going to allow you to get to the basket.
Getting downhill is such a huge part of becoming a good pick and roll player.
Right.
So if that nail defender can in any way, stop that momentum or slow him down or get him to, at least change his dribble so that the guard can maybe get back and square him up, right? That's his job. So if you practice, and this has to be something that's habitual, you practice it like you practice blocking out. If that guard coming off the pick and roll can hit that opposite wing right away, that nail defender now has to close out to that wing. And if you can catch and read two things, the angle of the pass and the angle of the defender, how he's closing out. Is he closing out low side or high side? And then you go opposite. And you basically want to move or sprint or catch on the run, catch through the pass, and run through the pass. That establishes momentum so that defender is closing out to a guy that's already moving.
So basically, attacking the closeout, being downhill before the defense even has an opportunity, because while they're still running, you're already running at them, and then you're going to get the advantage situation. The defense is going to be at the disadvantage situation.
Yes, and it is really hard to guard.
Yeah.
Some of the best players in the league defensively still struggle with it because it's just hard to guard a guy that's already moving full speed and you're going full speed the opposite direction.
Would you call that a split stop?
As far as you're saying what the defender would do to try and –
No, for the offensive player. So, you come off the pick and roll, you're going to pitch to me. I'm on the 45, and I know he's got a long closeout. But to your point, we're trying to get back downhill to put more pressure on the paint. The more opportunities we get to break down the defense. So if I split my feet, basically the ball's coming to me, and I'm splitting. You're running, or the defense is running at me. I'm running the other way.
Yeah. So I see what you're saying. Yeah. So basically, what you want to try and do is establish an outside foot. So the direction that you want to go, that back foot has to be established before you catch the ball, so you can push off of it through the pass. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if I want to go to my left, is my left foot in front?
If you want to go to your left, yes, your left foot would be in front. Let's say you're catching the ball from this angle.
Yep.
You'd want to get that right foot behind. You establish the back foot. That would be your right foot, so that you can move through the pass going to your left. Yes,
right.
Exactly.
So my basically if you wanted to pivot, both feet are probably going to touch at the same time, but you're taking the first step. If I want to go with my left, you're going to take a right step over the perfect. Okay.
Well, so the pivot, there would be no time for a pivot.
Correct.
So that's why you have to make sure you get your foot down before.
Right. So both feet are going to touch at the same time, but my left foot is going to be up, and I'm taking that crossover step.
Yes.
With my
right.
And
what I can do is I can send you a YouTube link of some film on this exact idea. But it was just amazing. Like, it was so difficult to guard some of our guys. And that was a huge reason why we would get an extra 8 points a game just off this one idea. And you just have to work on it. It's got to be something that's habitual. Like, players don't just like, okay, I got to catch on the run. It has to be something that you actually work on.
Right.
And we definitely did that.
No, I love that, and a tech nerd as far as basketball goes. Like I really enjoy that stuff. So that's why, on the catch, I prefer, not that we mandate, but I want them to do a hop so they can
Yes.
catch and shoot,
Yep.
because to this point on the efficiency, now when you have a closeout, you can do the same thing but just split your feet, and I would
Yep.
call it a split stop, and you'll say catch on the run. It's the same exact thing, because now the defense can't do anything. But if they want to close out short, you kind of know how much space you need to get your shot. You can just hop
Yes.
into it. So I just love talking about those points and the efficiency with with the Boston Celtics. Obviously it works, but now that you're saying it, I'm seeing Jason Tatum, I'm seeing
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown in my mind
Yeah.
doing those things where they're doing that like 3 or 4 times though, right? Like they're attacking 3 or 4 closeouts off of
Oh
the
yeah.
one pick and roll, and then they're
Yeah.
getting a
The guy that used to do
drive
it a
right through.
ton was Jay Crowder. Used to do it a ton.
Hmm.
And he would just get layups off of it just because he would time it perfectly, and he could shoot the three, so guys had to close out to him, right? So
Right.
he would time it perfectly so that as that defender is now, the ball's here, the pick and roll is happening here, and I'm the defender, the ball goes across my face, and as it goes to him, he's catching it and already moving this direction.
Right.
He was incredible at it.
No, that's great. We're gonna shut this podcast off at the end of this, and then we're gonna go over some of this technical, tactical stuff of the game, because I think it's gonna help a lot of people.
Yeah. So if I can, the other thing that I learned from them, as far as efficiency,
Yeah.
the type of shots that you should shoot, whether it be, now again, it kind of depends on the level, but for the pro level, for example, we talked a lot about not shooting early non-paint twos.
Yeah.
Early non-paint twos. So basically, early clock, anything with more than, I think it was 8 seconds left on the shot clock. We did not want to settle for a pull-up jump shot from
Right.
2-point land. And that was, again, I just thought it was really smart. That's the analytics everybody always talks about. And what that allows you to do is you get to the rim more often, and you get more often you get open threes because you're committing to the rim. You're getting that defense to now lock down and protect the rim, and now you have more kickouts. And that just, to me, that's the new way to play. I think the Rockets obviously do that
On steroids.
Basically every possession.
Yeah.
But you know what, they have success with it, and
Yeah.
I think the other part of that is obviously you have to get personnel that fits into that. But I think the other part of that's really smart from the development standpoint is, if you know going in that you are going to try and chase these shots, we would call it hunting threes,
Yeah.
and layups. You end up spending more time on getting better at those things, getting better at having a higher free throw rate, getting better at finishing. Like I have a ton of different finishing film. And this again was something I picked up from guys like Dave Lewin, that it's very situational. Just like we talked about the footwork, it's different tools to give these players so that, right when they recognize, all right, I got a guy on my shoulder who's not necessarily trying to cut me off, but he's okay just containing me. So I can do an instep, a Euro style footwork into his chest, create that space, and then one step to the rim. Just little stuff like that they can, you work on it every day so that, bang, split second decision, it just happens. They don't even think about it. And you spend a whole lot less time on the things that quote unquote are not as important, like separation, long twos. And so you're able to get better at the things that you really want to get done on the court.
Right. So you're giving them different solutions, and no matter what the defense does, it shouldn't matter because you've habitually trained your body to react to any type of situation around the rim, correct?
Yes. And then, so once they get good at different finishing, now they're going to obviously have a lot more players collapsing out on the rim and protecting the rim. So now they got to get good at finishing reads. Do you have the layup or do you have a kick out? Do you have a late wrap? You know, do you have a rondo style fake to a pivot out, to a kick out to the opposite wing? That sort of stuff. You know, the reads is huge, because once you're getting that downhill momentum at the rim, teams are going to collapse on you. You have to be able to make that read to get that kick out three.
Right. So you've got a basketball family. I guess that's the only way I can put it. Your wife is a head Division I basketball coach at Florida International University. Tell us about that, because you know both of your lives are consumed with basketball. Number one, like what is it like at home when you both come home? Is it still basketball, or do you guys get opportunities to look at other things? But I think it's so cool that you guys have such a great relationship centered around basketball.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique thing. I think most basketball coaches, I think the higher level you go, their husbands or wives probably do a whole lot less traveling than they do. They do a whole lot less stuff, away from the house. And sometimes you see a lot of times where they're just stay-at-home parents.
Yeah.
For us, it's the opposite. We both travel a huge amount. Like, for example, you look at the last 3 years, I worked in the NBA for the Pelicans for 2, and then the G League for 1. So we were always flying to different states. Yeah. Every once in a while, we'd be in the same state at the same time.
Yeah.
Usually not in the same city, but no, it's definitely a blessing and a curse, because she understands so much of what my job entails. She understands everything about it. So there's a whole lot less friction as far as that's concerned. But also the bad part is, we're both on the road a lot. We don't see each other a whole lot. But we've been able to accelerate our careers. And I definitely saw something special in her really, really early. We met actually online. When I was living in the Boston area, I didn't know anybody. I had no network at all to try and meet people, and ended up meeting her online, and here we are about 6 years later.
And
married.
Briefly tell me about her coaching journey, because she's a relatively young head coach, and she got to there pretty quickly, but I'm sure she put a lot of work in prior to that.
Oh yeah, no, she's done an amazing job growing her career. So when we met, she was at a small Division I school called UMass Lowell, which is just north of Boston, and she was able to, follow her head coach to Brown University, and that was really a great place for her, because number one, she really got to see the value of education and a great network, like their alumni network, and any school in the Ivy League is incredible. Like that's the big way that you get jobs there, is through the alumni networks. And she at a certain point got an agent named Brian Stanchek, who's done an incredible job of helping her build her career, and recruiting has always been her sort of niche. She was a recruiting coordinator at a bunch of the different schools that she's worked at, Boston College being one of them. So working in the ACC gave her a great look at the highest level of collegiate sports, and playing that conference is just a huge learning opportunity, and seeing what it takes to really be successful at the highest level of college basketball. And then after that, she got a great job working for Jose Fernandez at USF, and she's been there for 3 years, and they did a lot of winning. They, if this season would have played out normally, they would have had over 20 wins and had, another playoff season. Postseason, probably would have ended up going really far in the NIT, and they made the NC2A tournament the season before that, and had a ton of success. And then that led into her being able to interview for the head job at FIU, and she ended up getting it. And she's just really excited to get that journey started. And after this COVID stuff is all calmed down and we can finally get back in the gym, she's really excited about that opportunity.
Well, the good news is you being at IMG, you guys are in the same state for the last year anyway. And hopefully that'll stay the same as she progresses her career and you take on the next opportunity that comes with coaching. But before we get to the technical parts, and we'll do this one on YouTube and do all the video. Where can people find you? Where can they follow you? I know you post a lot of great information online, and you're a great resource for anybody that wants anything. I know you're a willing share of the game.
Yeah.
So, where can everybody find you?
Yeah. So if there's any coaches or anything that wants to send like a resume or anything like that, they can email me. Wendt, that's WENDT, the number 31 at outlook.com. And my social media is at dwendt31, and that's Instagram and Twitter. I'm really, really open to anybody contacting me, players, if they want to know some drills to work on. I have YouTube links for that. Coaches, if they want to just network, just connect, whatever it is. I'm super open. I know how much other people help me to get to where I am. So I have no choice but to give back to others that are trying to do the same.
That's awesome. I'm definitely coming out to Miami to visit you. My wife said she's got to come on that one, but we'll be talking hoops for sure. This is part one, but part two is going to be on the YouTube, so we can kind of get that technical basketball talk.
Yeah. Before you take off, I just wanted to, on behalf of everybody from the Bay Area, just say thank you to you for everything you do with Top Flight Elite, man. It's definitely a program that's grown a ton, and it's not anywhere near its ceiling. You guys done an incredible job for the players in that area, and I just want to thank you for everybody.
Thank you. I'm humbled, but as you mentioned earlier, it's just a good people, a lot of great people in our organization that do a lot of things that sometimes go unnoticed from the public. But there's so many people, a lot that that work behind the scenes to make it a great place to be. So I'm just happy to have the opportunity to share the game of basketball with our area, and just give kids the opportunity to keep on playing. So
absolutely.
Good deal. Thanks,
All
Dave.
right. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.